let me say it this way, Dave. In the words of the CEO of McDonald's, headquartered in Illinois, they are very concerned not just with the taxes, but with the violence. They literally say people are overdosing in our restaurants, that violent crime is happening in our restaurants. If this is the Chicago and the Illinois that is in our future, we're concerned that we can't stay. That should have reverberated throughout all of the country and specifically in Illinois. Governor Pritzker should have said, OMG, McDonald's is now speaking out about the crime. McDonald's is speaking out about overdoses in their restaurant. Whatever I'm doing in this state, I should apologize and quit.
Dave Rubin, and joining me today is a senator from South Carolina, as well as the author of the new book, America, A Redemption Story, Choosing Hope, Creating Unity, Senator Tim Scott. Finally, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Well, thank you, David. It's good to be with you. Thank you very much for having me. I look forward to our conversation. We have lots to talk about, but the good news is I'm excited to finally be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Well, it goes both ways. We've been trying to get you on for quite some time. The schedules haven't quite matched up, but here we are. So let's dive right into it.
Yes, sir.
Because I want to talk about the book, but I obviously want to talk about current events and election and all of that stuff, and some of the things you're doing right now. But first, the general point of the book is positivity. It is decency. It is something that seemingly everyone talks about, but nobody does particularly well. I include myself in that sometimes. I try to do it. I often fail. Can you talk a little bit about how your life led you to writing something based in that idea?
You know, Dave, the America, A Redemption Story is a book that I see as a positive view of the world as it is, not as I hope that it will be. The truth is that what I learned through life is that the pain that I've gone through has helped to clarify my purpose, that my obstacles have become the opportunities. And frankly, the mess I made of my life has become my message. So the truth is that, yes, it's a positive book, but it's not one of those pie in the sky hoping that something will be different than it is. It's the reality of what is. There is a way for us to bring forth a positive message in the midst of the chaos. And frankly, I'm sure we'll talk about inflation and some of the other challenges that we see today. As a kid who grew up during the Carter years, I thank God Almighty for Ronald Reagan. And so the truth is that I learned why I love President Ronald Reagan, because of the misery of high inflation, even higher interest rates, and scarcity, not a mentality, but at the gas pump. So the truth is that when I think about the hardest times I've seen in my life, somehow, some way, a silver lining appeared. And that book talks about that silver lining in race. It talks about it with the former president. It talks about it in winning and losing elections. It talks about it through this economic challenge that we're going through right now. So I find the silver lining when it's there. When it's not there, I just tell the blunt truth that it's not there.
So it can be tough to find the silver lining with so many of the things going on right now between inflation and supply chain and the war, not war in Ukraine and a whole bunch of other stuff. But do you really view us in that Jimmy Carter moment right now, which maybe could cause, sort of a red pilling of Americans, the average American that didn't realize that maybe big government doesn't work and printed money doesn't work and the rest of it?
Well, Dave, you're right. Big government has not worked, and we have a history to prove that it doesn't work. Inflation is led by this one concept that you talked about: spending money you don't have, buying things you don't need. How do we prove that? Well, $1.9 trillion on a COVID relief package with 1% for COVID vaccines. That led to pouring figurative gasoline on the fire, right?
Give them some time when they're getting rid of our strategic reserves. Yeah.
And then you go $1.2 trillion after that in an infrastructure bill that had 10% for roads and bridges over the next 5 years. You follow that up with a $739 billion plan called Inflation Reduction Act. And it's really the Inflation Acceleration Act. And not only does it accelerate inflation, but it actually adds more fuel to the fire by having the IRS comb through your file, so to speak, targeting people under $200,000 a year. So the truth is, this is like the Jimmy Carter years in that gas is high, inflation is high, and interest is creeping up. And that's a problem that causes a recession when combined with the overspending in Washington.
So anytime I have a Republican on, congressman, senator, doesn't matter, I basically ask one question always, which is, do you think they are doing this intentionally? Do you believe that they think this stuff works, or is this, what people are calling sort of like a calculated implosion?
Yeah, Dave, that's a great question. I can't say that the rank and file Democrats have a strategy to have the economy implode because of the pressure of inflation, the pressure of interest rates. What I can tell you is that the strategy to slow roll interest rate increases had a lot to do, from my perspective, of people being up for reappointment. It had something to do with trying to satisfy the whims and the wishes of the Biden administration. And that combination, whether intentional or not, led to an acceleration of inflation in a way that we haven't seen since the Carter years. So I don't imagine that they have a grand design to completely destroy the American economy. I do think they have a grand design to change the very DNA of the American people. When you look at what's happening, it's undeniable that what is clearly happening is a centralization in decision-making and in spending. When you take the power and the money and you put them in the same place, that is by design. And that is bad for everybody outside the Beltway.
So when you talk to, or if you talk to, say, a Democrat governor, maybe I just fled California, now I live in the free state of Florida.
Yes.
If you were to talk to Gavin Newsom, or if you have talked to him, or just one of the Democrats, Hochul up in New York, Whitmer, whoever it might be,
yeah.
I mean, do they think what they're doing is good? I mean, putting aside whether it works or not, I mean, just the intention. I'm still unclear on this. I just can't figure it out.
Well, Dave, I have to hope that their intentions are good. I don't know the mind of the person, so I try my best not to decide whether their intentions are good or not. But what I can tell you is that if you're living in California or Illinois, let me say it this way, Dave. In the words of the CEO of McDonald's, headquartered in Illinois, they are very concerned not just with the taxes, but with the violence. They literally say people are overdosing in our restaurants, that violent crime is happening in our restaurants. If this is the Chicago and the Illinois that is in our future, we're concerned that we can't stay. That should have reverberated throughout all of the country and specifically in Illinois. Governor Pritzker should have said, OMG, McDonald's is now speaking out about the crime. McDonald's is speaking out about overdoses in their restaurant. Whatever I'm doing in this state, I should apologize and quit. Or if I'm not going to do those two things, apologize and do a 180-degree turn in the opposite direction. Here's what we know works. We know that rule of law works. We know that an objective standard for the rule of law being applied equally works. We know that no bail doesn't work. We know that defunding the police doesn't work. We know that creating tribalism doesn't work. So if we know these things don't work, why does Gavin Newsom not know that? Why does Governor Pritzker not know that? I don't have an answer for what's going through their cranial cavity. I can tell you, it's time to stop.
Yeah, and that's why I ask you sort of the same question in two ways, because when you see 350,000 people flee California,
yes,
which is what happened last year, you'd think Gavin might go, I don't know, maybe this has something to do with my policies. But okay,
Toyota
let's move.
ran to Texas from California. I mean,
yeah,
Elon Musk is now in Texas. I mean, there are some breadcrumbs being left by some really smart people they should just pick them up and see where they lead.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.